Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And this one's been a while long time in the waiting. So we're taking a look today at the Salvo Precision MCX MWS GBBR series. This is a MCX gas blowback series built on the MWS platform. This comes to you from a company called Salvo Precision. And this actually came to me, ordered this online, it came to me from the guys at Airsoft Tiger 111HK, and this actually should have been here weeks ago, and they sent it out on release. It took like a day or two to get from Hong Kong to the UK, and then UPS just sat on it for a week. And nothing had moved. It kept saying it was in warehouse. I had to complain to UPS, and then all of a sudden, like that, it turned up at my door. So didn't get any import charges on it. I don't know if that's because I complained and they'd not done anything with it for a week, but there we go. So you'll see, if you order one, you'll see it comes in a really nice size hard case, which takes up the whole bench here. So apologies for that. We'll get it out of the way in a moment. And if we open this up, we have the MCX in here. Now, you'll see I went with the Virtus. Why did I go with the Virtus? Well, I'm going to show you that right now. So the first MCX I ever bought was the Toxicant Rattler. Now Salvo do four models. They do the Rattler, they do the Spear LT, they do the Spear LT CSAW, and they do the Virtus. Now I've got the Rattler. This was the first one I ever bought. After I bought that, Toxicant released the Spear LTs and the CSAWs. The CSAW is the one that I went with, just because I'd seen it in various videos online, and contrary to many people telling me this has a ambi bolt release, it really doesn't. The CSAW is a little bit different. So this I had from Toxicant as well. Loved it to bits. So I've got two MCXs. I didn't really feel the need to have a duplicate CSAW or a duplicate Rattler. I also didn't see the need to buy another Spear LT because it's very similar to the CSAW. So the model that was left was the Virtus, which I've never had a Virtus MCX before, gas blowback or otherwise. So that's what I went with. Now in hindsight, I probably should have gone with tan, because then I would have had one in every colour. For some reason I went with grey. I think I just like the look of this in grey. Kind of forgetting that my Rattler is in grey as well. So in the box, what you're going to get, you're going to get a cleaning and jamming rod, you're going to get a stock, you're going to get a gas magazine, you're going to get a Allen key, which is presumed is used to fit the stock, you're going to get the MCX itself, and it's like a normal eggshell type foam, but then they've put this sort of laser cut foam piece in so that it slots in and it doesn't move around during shipping. I really do like that. Behind those bits we get a pretty extensive exploded diagram which lists all the part numbers, which is good. So that's good to keep in case you need spare parts. Not that we're going to be able to get them very easy, but there we go. Hopefully Salvo does release a lot of spare parts. And then you get a manual. It's very what you'd expect. It does the job. In the pictures they have the Rattler and all the controls, and there's things like this, spraying lubricant into your mags, which you should never do. Spraying lubricant to all these places you should never really do. But it also tells you, like very much like an MWS, the correct orientation to have the magazine in, because the valves are at an angle. So yeah, pretty much pretty straightforward. We'll put these bits in this piece of plastic in case we should ever need them. We probably won't, but yeah, we get all the bits we need. So we'll put the manual in the box, we'll take the MCX out, we'll take the stock out, we'll take the gas magazine. I won't take the Allen key out because we've got plenty of tools. And yeah, so although it comes shipped in this case, I think this is probably one of the most usable cases that come with guns, because you just take this foam piece out or leave it in. The benefit to taking this out is you're going to be able to put the gun in there with the stock on folded, where with this in, you're kind of stuck a little bit. So we'll leave those bits in there and we'll get the case out the way. So case out the way, here we are. So this is a pre-assembled rifle. You'll see the inner barrel comes to the end of the outer barrel. So it's got everything included. Got a nice Verta stamp on the piece on the receiver here. It doesn't have any markings for obvious reasons. And everything you need is in the box to get this up and running. Unlike the Toxicants, which is more of a, they're sold more of a kit, but they're like a 95% kit, I suppose. You have to supply an inner barrel, you have to supply a magazine, you have to not supply a grip, but you have to fit it. This is very similar style grip. I did have one of these MCX style grips literally just a moment ago. Not sure what I've done with it. But if we want to switch that out for an MCX grip, we can put one on there that I've got for, that has all the 6 hour markings on and stuff like that. So we get a folding stock. Very nice. I've got a stock similar on my Rattler, which again, I had to buy. It did not come with it. I think this is an artisan one. You'll see it's a little bit different, but I'm not too fussed about that because I like the fact that it's a little bit shorter in that regard because the Rattler is a very small rifle. Right, enough waffling. Let's get to fitting this thing. So we're going to need an Allen key to fit the stock. Is it a 3? It's probably a 4. So it's a 4mm Allen key. We can take this out. You don't have to remove this all the way, but sometimes it does make it a little bit easier. The indexing pieces that you'll need to pay attention to are on this part of the bracket itself. So you'll see we can slide it like this, and then it latches into place. You'll see how it stops there. So the back part of it doesn't do that, it just slides up and down. So we're going to line this up. I tend to line these up with the notch in the receiver, it just looks a lot cleaner that way. If you were fitting like a VFC, like sliding stock, which I've got on my MCX, you know, this channel here, that's where the rails go for that stock. So we put this on here, we'll tighten it up, and we'll get to a bit of an overview. So pretty self-explanatory, Stanag style mag. Looks very much like an MWS mag, but there's no there is a little bit of a quality difference, as you can tell. If you've handled a lot of MWS mags, you know that these clone mags aren't generally as good. You see no markings on the bottom there, but we do have a similar style valve. The MCX itself, it's finished really, really nice. To be honest, the finish on it is better than what I had on my Rattler, because when I got, the Rattler's a bit of a, you know, a case of its own. You'll see the colour, well, you might not be able to see it, but the colour is very much different. But I can't remember where. So here on the rail, you might not see it there, but there's like a white mark that goes all the way along, which is basically the bare metal coming through because it hasn't been fully coated properly. But, you know, almost kind of in person, this looks like a slight twinge of green to it. The Rattler, of course, doesn't have a forward assist. So we'll set that to one side. So the finish on this is really, really good. You've got a serial number on the bottom of the magwell there, so it's nice and out the way. The handguard feels good. And what I've seen online is a lot of people taking digs at the Salvos when they've seen them, saying, oh, it's not a CNC receiver, it's not CNC this and CNC that. Go and look at the CNC kits and you're going to be paying double the price. You know, if you were to get this rifle from Toxicant, which I have Toxicant, so I like them, they're not without their problems. They have a few niggly things here or there, most of which, if not all, are fixable. But you're going to be paying double what you paid for one of these. You're not getting in a barrel, you're not getting a stock, you're not getting a magazine. So you've got to factor that into account as well. So let's say you buy a Toxicant Virtus, you've got to buy stock, they're usually 100 quid. Magazines, what, 60, 70 pounds, depending on where you're getting from if you're buying like MWS style mags. And in a barrel, another 50, 60 quid. So you can see you're very easily north of £1,000 for something similar from the likes of Toxicant, which there wouldn't be a problem with that. I'm not convinced that they see, people seem to think that they CNC machine everything on these, and honestly, I don't think that they do, but Maybe I could be wrong. You know, it just doesn't really seem that way. So people not liking the die-cast aspect of it. Honestly, the majority of gas blowback products on the market are cast. They're not CNC machined. It's an expensive process. So anyway, it's an MWS style gas blowback. So, you know, probably one of the most versatile and best performing platforms out there. Controversial if you think it is, but honestly, I've owned almost every type of gas blowback rifle out there, and there's a reason that I stuck with the MWS platform. I'm not saying that people out there that use VFCs are using an inferior product. Maybe theirs work better than mine did, but in my opinion, the MWS system, it's not as realistic as the VFC systems, but in my experience and opinion, it works a hell of a lot better. It's more reliable, it's better, more efficient with gas and stuff like that. Generally, you don't get a lot of spitting of gas through the ejection port when firing on, you know, fast bursts of semi and full auto. But you guys know that. If you followed my journey for a while, you know where I'm coming from. So we're going to take the pins out here. We're going to take a quick look inside. I'm just going to use a Allen key to save my fingers. So as you'd expect, comes apart like any other one. We'll pull the bolt out here. The bolt is, I'd say, slightly similar to the Toxicant one. I don't believe this is going to be like stainless like their one is. So the magnet is attracted to this steel piece here. So you'll find that this is some kind of alloy mixture. The screws are obviously steel. The springs are steel as well. But apart from that, the bolt is going to be some kind of alloy mixture. All looks pretty good. You know, there's not a lot of like rash flash markings or anything. There is markings on the back of the bolt, which is, I imagine, is where they've test fired it before shipping it out. This happens to every brand of bolt in the MWS line, whether it's standard or aftermarket. You get this kind of peening of the metal on every single model that I've seen. Similar charging handle to the other Toxicants that I've got. You do have a forward assist on these, but the forward assist doesn't do anything. It's literally there for show. With the upper released from the lower, we should be able to slide the handguard off. Just pull that apart like so. So your normal barrel style fitments. This is the weird one here. They've used a Phillips style head for these, which I don't agree with. It's old school technology. You should be using Torx by now, but you know, this is coming in at a cost. The fake gas rod doesn't connect to anything. There's just empty space in the back there, but you're not going to see that. You've got a 14mm counterclockwise flash hider, which is a 3-prong. So you can pull this off here. You do have a little spacer as well, which mates up to this surface here. You've also got a channel in the bottom, so if you're using flash hiders that have got the little grub screws in the bottom, you've got a safe place to get a bit of torque down to stop your flash hider coming loose. This is very light, and yeah, nice quality. I presume this is the flash hider that comes on the Vertex series. I've not seen this on any of my other models as of yet. So all this is like alloy. You've got steel screws, of course, but everything is made of some kind of alloy metal. You'll see the back. I don't tend to like to see this, where what's happened is, you'll see that's how it's meant to look. This has been drilled out after the fact. So what I imagine is that during the manufacturing process, someone's took a drill to alleviate a bit of material out of that, probably because the receiver pin wasn't going in. Again, don't bark at Salvo for that. I've got some really high-end receiver kits, like my SLR one from Dytac, and on the SLR kit from Dytac, the M4 receiver, both of those holes are completely bored out the same. So as long as it goes together and it doesn't wobble all over the place, I'm not too fussed. See the trigger components here. So the Z plate's going to be steel. The arm on the side, I don't think steel. I think that's aluminium of some kind. You've got a steel roller on the hammer. It feels like a steel hammer as well. Steel hammer, steel roller. It feels like it's magnetizing towards the sears at the back. And they're basically using a system similar to the Toxicant series where instead of having a bit that sits at the back of the bolt here, which your normal AR bolt goes back and actuates, it's actuated at the front with a lever, very similar to the Toxicant. So this is almost a bit of like, if you want to call it, an adaptation of the Toxicant MCX series. But all the controls look good. They are, of course, all aluminium. Steel pins, of course. Everything else aluminium. You've got a steel trigger, which is nice. None of this really matters as long as the gun performs and is reliable and the metal parts aren't wearing out like rapidly. There isn't a problem with components that aren't made of steel. So we'll pop this back in here. You've got a normal MWS style adjuster, which is a little wheel. You'll see it's absolutely caked in there with grease, which I'll be wanting to clean out and re-grease with some better lubricants. The wheels on the top of the bolt here are encapsulated with little E-clips or C-clips, whatever you want to call them. I've seen them called two different things. So you've got a pin that goes through one side and then a clip that retains it on the top. And we can slide this in there. Right. Grease everywhere, all over my hands and everything. So you see there, you rock the hammer back into position. You normally have the reset, which is on your full auto sear, which releases it. And then we'll see how the trigger does. So the trigger feels like it's right there, which it is. And to be honest with you, that's really not a bad trigger for an MWS. A lot of MWS replicas do have not terrible triggers, but not great triggers. But when you're firing it, honestly, you really don't notice all that much. You can, of course, get aftermarket trigger packs and all kinds of stuff to alleviate that. Now, with that drilled hole at the back, there is zero play in the receiver. So I'll give them a pass for that, because obviously they've done it to a tight tolerance and then they've just drilled the pin out at the back to give you a little bit of space. Now, there's so minimal space in that receiver. It's a very, very good receiver for a cheap replica. I mean, it's not cheap, but cheaper than a lot of other things. It's very similar to the Toxicant. The Toxicants are usually pretty good. The spear is very good as well on mine. You get a bit of up and down movement there, which is like it on every single one. Every gas blower that I've ever seen. So when you compare it to something very expensive, like the big boy spear, there's not like any rotational movement. It's just up and down at the back of the receiver. So the tolerance on these pins, just they could have been done with a bit better. And I honestly think it's the tolerance on the lower receiver, not the upper. So if they brought this tolerance on the pinhole down slightly, that would have been a lot better. But you know, real versions of this stuff do it too. So let's get some gas in this magazine. I know I'm probably going to go overboard on the time here, but I'm just trying to cover all the bases. Now, we will be doing many videos on this platform like we do with any kind of gas blowback in the MWS family, shall we say, or platform. So if there's anything that you want to see specifically, what you need to do is get your comments down below, and then hopefully if I can make it a thing, we'll get it on camera. So with all my chrono tests, I do it with 0.3 gram BBs, because 0.2s are just pointless. Every site worth their salt now should be using joules instead of FPS with the 0.2. So we have some 0.3s in this speed loader here. Many of you have been asking about these BB boxes. So you can actually find all the files for these BB boxes now on the Discord. So if you want them, you want to print them yourself, they're print in place things where you just print the various components flat on your bed. There's no supports needed, and then you just snap it together. You haven't got to have any screws or bolts or nuts or anything like that. So we'll see if the Jaeger Precision MWS easy loader works. And yes, it does. Not as smooth as a Marui, but we get the BBs in there. As with all gas blowback magazines like this, when you've got the mag filled, I always say to take out the top round to save you damaging your nozzle. So we'll put that over there. Let's get our chrono on. We're set to 0.3 gram BBs. And yeah, it does look good, doesn't it? The Virtus being sort of like the older family of rifles from SIG. We are doing 1.6 joules and a 0.3. This is why you don't chrono with 0.2s. 1.5. 1.49. We're getting rid of that initial burst of energy from the mag. We're going to sort of equalise now. 1.46. 1.46. 1.45, so we're equalising there. So about 1.4, 1.45 joules, 322 feet per second on a 0.3 gram BB. That is what you'd expect for an MWS of this barrel length. There are many things you can do to these to get the power down. Most importantly, I think, with the Jaeger M passes now, with other companies. So the Jaeger M passes will fit, you know, TM spec bolts, nozzles, sorry, and it will fit the Guns Modifier ones. With the clones of the MWS, like the Double Eagles and others, they tend to be a little bit tighter. Now, it's just a simple modification with these, so I think this is probably going to be the same, hopefully. It just goes straight in, where you just have to take down the flat edges, the 3 flat edges on the valves, just to give them a bit of alleviation to get in there. I think when we go for the next round of production on the valves, I'm going to change the tolerances slightly, hopefully just to get it to a point where it fits all nozzles and we haven't got to worry about it. So yeah, let's give it a couple of shots. Let's do a burst on auto. And yeah, it seems to work. Seems to work really well. The stock's nice. It doesn't really wobble that much. There's a little bit of rotational movement, as you'll see in the hinge, but not bad at all. When you've got it in your shoulder, you really don't feel that. You're not twisting the rifle like that. Pop the hinge up. It folds to the side. Nice and out the way, actually. It's got a bit of like tension towards the rifle. So there is a little bit of slop in the stock, but you know, if you're really worried about that, you can go get like an artisan stock. Now, it will take a little bit out if you just hit it into the hinge a little bit and let it seat. So there is the Salvo Precision. Is it Salvo Precision? Salvo Precision MCX line. Like I say, you can get it in this. You can get it in the Rattler, which is a similar handguard-ish. You've seen on my other Rattler, which is about here. You tend to find that the Rattlers and those with shorter barrels are not hot out of the box, and you don't really have to fit end passes. They're usually around about a joule on a 0.3. You'll have the Spear LT and the Spear CSAW, which are usually around about this length barrel-ish, and then the Virtus being the longer one. So I went with the Virtus because it's a different platform to the ones I've already got. And I was kind of like toying with the idea of maybe setting this up as a semi-only rifle to take to games where they allow semi-auto onlys to have a slightly higher power, or just leave it as it is and just be done with it. I suppose with an M-Pass we can switch between the two. But yeah, I like it. In hindsight, I probably should have gone with a TAM one, but because I had recently got one of the Ghetto Blasters from Double Eagle, I think the tan was still fresh in my mind, and I was like, oh, I'll go for a different colour this time, go grey, where I've already got a grey Rattler. So we can see how the Salvo Precision MCX series fares against the MWS and against the Double Eagle Noveski M4 and Ghetto Blaster. So this is a new brand to the market. I'm very much interested to see where they go with it. and hopefully they can bring us more models, and maybe even hopefully they can bring us a more affordable Spear XM5 maybe. Who knows? There's stranger things, but early on in the year, many things could happen. So I hope you like the overview of this. As always, the first video I do on these platforms is always like an introduction and a quick overview. We'll go on to later videos where we test mag compatibility and anything else you guys want to see. Apologies, the camera cut out there, but I will of course be planning to use this rifle as one of in my collection. So I'll be putting, you know, a nice barrel and hop components in there, and we'll obviously have to use an impasse of some description to keep the power down. So we'll take you along for that. I don't know how I'm going to dress this rifle up yet. We could, if we go in as a semi-only thing, we could put like a short dot on it. I just don't think something like that suits this platform. So maybe like a EOTech and a magnifier. Who knows? We'll see. I think it's crying out for some kung fu, and hope you've enjoyed it. So like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you get your comments down below with things that you want to see on this platform on the channel, and just let me know what you think of this thing in general. These usually go for about, I think it's about £350 to £400. So in the grand scheme of things, for an MCX gas blowback MWS platform, it's very affordable. So we'll see if these things actually come to the UK through a distributor. I'm not too sure. Probably won't, because it's very SIG-ish and it's not an official thing from a company like Salvo. But hope you enjoyed it. Check out the links in the description below, especially if you want things like this with the BB boxes. And come and join the Jaeger community. And as always, from me and Bench, we'll be seeing you in the next one.